Hello and welcome back to another weekly episode of Ray Starting with the Basics. Today we're going to go over how to actually change a tire on your vehicle and the proper way to safely jack your car up and down. Stay tuned. Okay, so here we are out in my front yard. I got my car here to my left, and we got a couple of tools that we're going to need in order to be able to take a tire off. You're going to need a jack, and you're going to need something to actually remove the lug nuts. And this particular device here is called a 4-way, and it has 4 different size lug nut removal pieces. If you don't have one of these, your car should come with an actual jack and the proper tool that you need to remove the lug nuts and the wheel covers. So right here on the outside, this is my wheel cover. It's got 4 little pieces here. I would just take this, since it's a 4-way, and you can rotate it, because there's different sizes, until you find the correct one that fits over top of it. Take that and spin it to the left. So this particular vehicle, I haven't had to take my tire off, can you tell? This particular car has 4 lug nuts, and these lug nuts actually hold this cover in place. I have a metal rim underneath that. Now, a couple of things to remember for safety reasons is you're going to be under a vehicle and you could be messing with some dirt and stuff, so safety glasses are a good idea. And at the same point in time, you want to do what they call chalk a tire, which basically just means that you need to put something behind the tire so that way you don't have the car rolling back over on top of you, especially if you're working on an inclined surface. My driveway, and most driveways, are actually an inclined surface. Your street will usually, not always, but usually will be more level than your actual driveway. You can definitely tell, just take a look at it. Your eye will tell you pretty quickly if the driveway is more inclined or if the road is more inclined. So anyways, getting back to that, so you want to take like a 3x3, a 4x4. In my case, I have a fireplace, so I would just grab out a piece of firewood that I chopped up, and I'd stick it behind the rear tire of the opposite side of the vehicle that I'm actually raising. So that stops the vehicle itself from shifting backwards. So if I'm removing my driver's side front tire, I want the piece that I'm going to chalk behind the passenger side rear tire. That gives me the most amount of stability. You can chalk both rear tires, that's fine. If you're going to be raising up both sides and changing out both tires on the front, chalk them both in the beginning. If you have the ability to do that, that'll save you time in the long run. Alright, so when it comes to actually removing a tire, what you want to do is you want to sit here, line it up, get it set up so that way you can actually get a good grip on it, because you're going to have to press down, so that way you can hit down with one hand and pull up with the other hand. And you want to stand over top of it, so that way as you push down, you're pushing down with like your shoulder and your weight at the same time, and then you're just pulling up, and that'll break it loose. Now, you want to break all of your lug nuts loose before you actually pull the tire off the ground to change it. The reason why you do that is because you need the friction or the grip that the tire has to whatever the surface is you're contacting in order to be able to loosen the lug nuts. If you raise the vehicle up, what's going to happen is the tire itself is just going to spin. So it's important that you loosen the lug nuts. Don't take them off, but just break them loose. When you do, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll feel that resistance when it pops and lets go to where it spins freely, then you're good there. So do that to all of them. In this case, I would do it to all 4. From there, I know that I have my wheel chalked, so I would take my jack and I'd place my jack under my vehicle to raise the vehicle itself up. This one here is an automotive jack that I bought. However, because this is a newer car and they have aluminum frames on them and a lot more aluminum on them, or composite metals, it's easier to actually damage them and bend them. So let's take a look under my vehicle and see exactly where the manufacturer has designed it for you to actually raise the vehicle up. If you have an older vehicle that has a metal frame on it, you don't have to worry about this. Find a spot on the frame that's good and contact with metal. Don't do it on your axle. your axle, you might bend it. I doubt it on a steel axle, but you could. So I wouldn't recommend that. So you want to choose something usually in the front, along the side, underneath the doorways is a good place on most vehicles to actually be able to grab part of the frame to lift it up. On these vehicles, they have a special spot to do that, and I'll take you in here in just a second and show you. All right. So here you go. Put it down like this. There it is. So that's loose. All right. I'm going to tighten this back up. And that noise means it's good and tight. I'm going to tighten that back up because I'm not actually going to take this tire off. So let's stop at this point. We'll bring you in and then we'll go over how to put a tire back on the correct method. Okay, so here we are underneath my front tire and my driver's side of the car. You can see this right here is where they've been lifting. You'll notice this piece right here is actually left from the manufacturer to tell you where you want to line your stuff up. Usually they have an indentation. I have another one here. This doesn't have any mushrooming around it. Right there. And then I have another one down here that doesn't have any mushrooming or smushing around it. So this is the area that is designed on my vehicle to actually connect the jack or to hoist to like change your oil or something. That's where they actually should connect it, so that way it doesn't cause any body damage. Okay, so I took you underneath and showed you what that was. Now let's take a look out here. So you broke all four of those loose, you got your tire chalked, you jack that up, you finish loosening these. This wheel will pull right off. It's going to be a little heavy, so be careful of that. And then you're going to take your new one, slide the new one on, and then loosely tighten all of these back down just by hand. And as soon as they stop by hand, you're fine. And then lower the vehicle back down to the ground. So that covers taking the tire off and putting the tire back on, including jacking the vehicle up. Now, when you go to tighten it, you want to tighten it what's called the star pattern. So I have 4 of them, so it's easy. I'm going to go top, bottom, left, right, or I could go left, right, top, bottom. I could go bottom, top, right, left. It doesn't matter. What you want to do is you want to create a crisscross pattern, and then sometimes I'll come back and I'll hit it a second time, especially if I have something that usually has 6 or 8 lug nuts on it. Because when you tighten it down and you pull it in, you're actually getting it tight here and then tight up here. This one might come a little bit loose. I doubt it will, but it's always good if you have like 6 or 8 lug nuts on your vehicle to go around them 2 times and make sure the tire is on the ground again before you tighten those with whatever device you have. In this case, I have a 4-way to actually tighten those back down. Again, you want that surface contact and you want that friction, so that way you know that those lug nuts are tight. If you don't tighten them when they're on the ground, the lug nuts themselves will work themselves off and your tire could go flying down the road. I'm not saying that to scare you, I'm just letting you know there are real complications if you don't do that right. So when you have it up, after you pull it off, you put the new one on and tighten the lug nuts, release the jack so it lowers the vehicle down. After that's done, come back, hit in a star pattern, tighten. If you have 6 to 8 lug nuts, do it twice. Then once you're done with that, remove the chocks from your vehicle and you're good to go. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Ray Starting with the Basics. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.